What's grounded, fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. As always, the purpose of this channel is to express vulnerability and expand awareness to addiction, trauma, and mental health. Tonight I have Alika and Marisol, aka Mr. and Mrs. Gambill. What's grounded, fam?
Hey, thank you for having us.
What's up, bro? What's grounded? I love it. I love that intro, man.
Dude, I'm extremely thankful you guys are here. It's a little different, as you guys can see. We're doing 3 people today, so like I said, it's different. We're gonna switch it up. Today's topic is gonna be mainly about marriage and healthy relationships, and the reason why I want to talk about that and the reason why you guys are perfect guests for that is because I know you guys have a YouTube channel. You guys put it on Instagram. It's amazing what you guys do, man. Every time I hop on there and I check you guys out, I'm like, dude, like I wish I had this while I was a kid, or even as I was in my relationship with my kid's mom. Because there's so many things in there that could have helped me. So I want to make sure you guys get to use this platform to put that stuff out there. And also, man, I come from a broken home. I come from a broken home, and I know for a fact that not that my addiction stemmed from necessarily a broken home, but it definitely fueled my alcohol and cocaine use. So I would like for you guys to talk about your relationship and your marriage. I know nobody's perfect, but you guys are definitely working towards that, and it's really admirable. Without further ado, can you guys give us maybe like a little background on what you guys used to think a relationship was like and how it has changed? But first, you guys already know, before I go any further, before I go any further, I gotta ask you guys an icebreaker question, and it always has to do with humor. Why? Because in the beginning of my sobriety, I thought that my life was over. That was it, because now I'm gonna be this boring ass dude, doesn't go out, just fucking stays in his shell. But that is not the case. I actually, I'm a little bit more goofy, but I tend to find more humor in things, and I want to show people that to not take yourself too serious sometimes.
That's right. Yeah.
So I know you guys are a little anxious about this one, but I'm gonna give you guys an example of something humorous or humiliating that actually happened to me. Okay. So we're gonna keep it relationship status.
Okay, got it.
All right, so I've been in a couple relationships, and I've noticed that my biggest pet peeve is when someone chews or is eating their food and it's like making a lot of noise. And it just bugs the shit out of me, man. It's like the biggest turnoff. But come to know that I fucking do the exact same shit. And I did not even know that until someone called me out like, bro, you make so much noise when you fucking chew food. And I was just like, are you serious? Like, I used to fucking bash on my ex because of that shit, and I'm the one making noise. So that's something that I went through. Now I'm curious, what is something that you guys not necessarily can't stand, but you guys are like, oh man, that really grinds my gears, being in a relationship together, or just something, you know, humorous or maybe a little embarrassing? You guys can put each other on blast. Feel free to do so.
Go ahead. You want to go first?
You should take it away.
Okay. Well, one of my biggest pet peeves is it's honestly my wife. She likes to leave lights on, like we own the electricity company. You know what I mean?
That's me too.
I literally will go around the house and turn off lights, and then 5 minutes later it's on again. Like, why is it on again? You know. And another one. This one is probably even worse than this one. But me, I love to be early or on time for anything I do. Anything I do. And she's the total opposite. Like, literally. Like, I gotta tell her like hours in advance that we're gonna do something. So she'll be ready. Even when I say that, though, she's still not ready.
And I've heard you guys mention this on one of your shows, so I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Marisol?
Well, I have to say to that, I like to be fashionably late. Hello.
Oh, she got you there.
So, you know, there's a purpose behind that. But, man, what you say, you hit it right on the mark. I have to be completely transparent. That was something that I hated. I hated people chewing. It annoyed me. I literally would stop in the middle of eating, just like, it would turn me off. off. So he does chew pretty loud, but come to think about it, it's so sad. Like, I came to find out that I do the same thing too.
Oh
so
my
it's so sad. So that's a big pet peeve, or at least it was until I found out that I did it as well.
Oh, man. And it's so sad when we find out that we do that to him.
Crazy.
And then now, like, I chew my food, I'm just like trying to make
quiet.
like no noise, because I was literally like, I'm done eating. Like, I can't stand it. Like, I'd rather not even eat. Like, fuck that. But yeah, guys, thank you for sharing. It was a good laugh. So yeah, like I was saying, if you guys can just please give us like a background of what you guys thought what a healthy relationship was like, or maybe even dig deeper into like what your parents' relationship was like, because I know for me, a lot of the relationship that my mom and my stepdad had, and like it mirrored onto my relationships. And I know we were talking about this earlier, where I mentioned that I saw my mom basically as a single mother, and so seeing that as a kid, as I got older, I saw a woman, and I was with a woman, and I was like, okay, you lead, you're in charge. Until it hit me, I was like, dude, like that's not how it's supposed to go. And you know, unfortunately, this shit stays stuck in us because we're programmed like that. You know, we learn these things subconsciously. So if that was something that you guys went through, you know, just please share that to the best of your ability. And then also what you guys think a healthy relationship is to you guys now, if your perspective has changed.
Absolutely. I'm glad you made mention. I know we were talking earlier too. I could relate 100% because I too was raised by a single mother. And yeah, funny that you said that you allowed a woman to lead because that's all you knew. And yeah, subconsciously we do. Our upbringing definitely defines our future. Like what we see, what we hear, it gets molded into us. So for myself too, I feel like I didn't really have a healthy perspective of a good relationship because, you know, all I knew was a single parent. So I became very independent. Like I wanted to do life on my own terms. So to be honest, I didn't have a healthy perspective of a relationship. But as I got into a relationship with my husband, he has a phenomenal example of his parents. They're actually been married for almost 40 years now. So that was a beautiful example. So, and I looked at that, admired that. I wanted that, although I didn't know how to achieve it. I didn't have a great example. One thing I did know is I wanted that. When I got married, one thing I knew for sure is I wanted a healthy relationship. I wanted to grow old with my husband. So although I didn't have a good example, I was open and receptive to learning about it. And that's where my husband kind of just, you know, took on the role of leading in our relationship.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, I grew up with a good example. My mom and dad got married when they were 16 and 17, and then they're still married to today. They've actually been married for 43 years.
That's incredible.
You know, yeah, I got some young parents, bro. They started having kids early. Like, I'm the youngest one, and I'm 37. My brother's 43. You know, but my dad is only, what, he's 60, 61 now? You know, my mom is 60. Yeah, I know.
Bro, how young were they?
yeah. 15,
that's how they get down in
16.
Hawaii, huh?
Yeah. You always have the kids first, then get married out of obligation. But but you know what? God kept their marriage together. My mom always said that, you know, although my dad was always doing his thing, he was out with the boys and doing all this stuff, she never wanted us to grow up in a broken home. My mom didn't. So she stuck it out, you know, for years. And then what happened was maybe I was about 13, 15, around that age. They started going to church. My mom started going to church, and then eventually, it wasn't instantly at all, but eventually my dad started to go as well. Because my dad was a big time drug dealer in Hawaii. You know, he never worked for years, and I mean, he would move keys, not like 8 balls here and there. No, he never worked for years. He had all kind of boats and cars and everything. But I was a young kid. I didn't know what's going on. You know,
so that would definitely encourage you to have kids right away.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah. We got a good foundation.
Right?
Yeah.
Money's not a problem.
Yeah. So, you know, growing up, I got to see my dad was the leader in our house, and it was obvious. And my mom followed him. So although he may not have done everything correct, the structure in the home was solid, the foundation. And although I can overlook his faults and flaws and everything, I seen the man that he was and how he led, how he provided for his family, you know, how he prayed for his family. And he is my example, and I am my son's example. But also, as my wife said, I'm her example. Like, anything that I maybe didn't like about her, or there's something maybe I wanted her to do, I never went and tell her, look, you should do this and you should do that. I never did that since I've known her. What I did was I did it first, and she followed me. Amazing, man, how that happened. You know, but but like my idea of a relationship, it never actually changed because of the example I seen with my parents. You know, like I always, since I was 15 years old, I always knew I wanted to be married and to be a father. I always knew that. Had a big problem though. For 20 years, I was stuffing cocaine on my nose and drinking vodka by the gallon, you know. And that just, like, every woman before my wife, all of them said, I do not. All of them. And like, I understand why today. It's funny today. Like, I can talk about it today. And it's funny, but I literally couldn't hang on to a woman to save my life because it was all about me. Like nobody can sustain a one-sided relationship. Nobody. I was always taking and taking and taking. Like, as soon as they figured me out, bam, they're gone. You know what I mean? You know, but I learned, man, like how you're talking about our marriage videos and everything. All those things, I actually, believe it or not, I learned those kind of things active in my addiction. I just never ever applied them ever because I couldn't. I didn't have the ability or capacity to think about somebody else other than myself. You know, like you know what I mean? Yeah. Being actively drinking and using and stuff. Oh yeah.
All right. In case you guys have not seen Alika's episode that I did with him on his addiction, please check that out. I'm going to leave the link to that in the description below. That's crazy how you guys were brought up from, you know, different parenting styles and you guys combined it together. Well, I guess it's thanks to Alika, because now I know that as a male you are supposed to take that lead. And I want to ask you, Marisol, what was the biggest challenges as an independent woman to accept that? Because man, I've experienced that. There's a lot of women that, not to say that it's a bad thing, but it's almost like they're forced to be that way because of the lack of leadership us men are taking. So what were the challenges that you had to overcome? Even just thinking like, okay, I gotta let this guy lead now because that's what he wants to do. And then come to find out that's what you actually wanted.
Absolutely. Man, that's a good question, because I feel like we're living in times where we're conditioned differently. So we're told by each other, stand up for yourself, be independent, don't let a man tell you what to do. And to a certain extent, that's a good thing. But we've lost the the idea of what a marriage should be. The man is leading, the woman is the nurturer. So again, being independent is not a bad thing, but we can't lose the principle of a marriage. So for me, I'm not gonna lie, because I grew up very independent, nobody would tell me what to do. I would come and go when I please. I didn't like direction or authority for that matter. It was challenging, and to be honest, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But the difference today is I want to change. I want a good relationship. I want to grow with my husband. But for me, I think the breaking point, what kind of shifted things for me, was just learning about what the purpose of a marriage was. So now, as I build my relationship with God, I basically started learning of what God intended a marriage to be, what the role of a woman was, and what the role of a husband was. So once I started learning that information, it just fueled me and it made it easier. Again, just being conditioned a certain way for so many years, it's challenging. It doesn't come easy. Sometimes I find myself just kind of trying to fight back a little bit, but you know what? Like, no, I instead of being part of society and being Miss Independent, trying to pretend like I have it all together, no, I'd rather just admit defeat, swallow my pride when I have to, if it means just having a successful marriage.
Now, Alika, I want to ask you, how did you build the patience, and how were you able to like tackle this task? Because it's hard, it's difficult.
Yes.
And I know you said it was, you know, a lot of it had to do with your dad, but like, was there anything else that helped you? Let's say for people like me that didn't have that dad, what would you suggest to us to do when it comes to like meeting a woman, and you know now, like, hey, I need to take initiative. She's taking way too much on. There's a lot of pressure, and probably that's why she's snapping on me all the time, because I'm not taking the initiative to either make more money or to be a provider or to make sure she's safe or to like help her out here and there and whatever I could.
Yeah, okay. You know, like kind of to tag on to what my wife was just talking about. So that was a big challenge for her, you know, when she first met me, because it was submission that she didn't That's what
I didn't like that word.
She
That
didn't
word
like
just
that.
made me.
You know, because there's a famous scripture in the Bible that says, "Wives, submit to your husbands." And husbands, we love that one, but that's not all it says though. The guys, they like focus on that one, but it goes on to say, "Husbands, love your wife the way Christ loved the church and gave his life up for it." I literally would die for my wife today. Like literally, a lot of men might say that, but I literally would give my life, for her today.
Like you said, though, submission. Like people look at that as like weakness, but do you find comfort in being submissive now? And do you feel like shit? Like I can actually be nurturing now. I can actually be more like loving towards him because I know he's got this under control, and you let him.
Yeah. It actually, you know what? You're right. There is this misconception on the word submission. Like we look at it as being a bad thing. Like I don't submit to anybody, but there's more to it. Allowing someone else to take the role and you follow. It also can mean just simply following, listening to direction. It actually takes pressure off of us. We don't have to have it all together. Our man can lead. Our man can take, the role. Like if we let them. Like so, I think again, submission has this negative stigma. But it isn't a bad thing if we really dig deep into all the benefits that can come out of it. Yeah, and that's what shifted my perspective.
Now, one thing I've read, sorry, Alika, before you say anything, but one thing that I read in this book as, I think it's the book, The Way of a Superior Man. So this book taught me a lot about male masculinity and femininity, right? So if a woman's being or taking on too much stress or taking on too much masculinity, because they're polar opposites, they can't embrace the feminine.
And for those of you who might be in a relationship with someone who's like very misindependent and you want to, because you love on them so much, you want to give them that freedom. Like sometimes I feel like we put on this persona, like we got it like all tough and at the end of the day, let's be real. We want the man to lead. We want them to take initiative. Like we love that. So whether they want to admit it or not, but that's good.
That came from her mouth.
Hey, we're out of this one, right? We did not say anything. All right, so those who grow together, go together.
Right.
So I took that straight from a video that you guys made, and it's out of a book that you guys are reading, and that is The Protocol for Marriage.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that episode because I didn't grow with anybody. We grew apart. Literally, we literally grew apart. How important is it to grow with somebody in a relationship, and kind of talk about that episode as far as, holding each other accountable, getting comfortable with one another, and subtle changes? Because I know for a fact when I was in a relationship, my longest relationship with my kid's mother, as soon as I stopped drinking, we didn't really have anything in common. We were seriously growing apart, and little subtle changes started happening. We wouldn't really talk as much. We wouldn't laugh together as much. It was dry as fuck, like super dry. And there's subtle changes you just kind of don't notice, but little by little, and then it just happens where there's just no connection anymore. If you guys can go into depth with those who grow together, go together type of subject.
Yeah, I'm gonna just to kind of piggy off of what you say, like. I agree. I feel like I was in a relationship prior to my husband where it was an 8-year relationship, and like without even noticing it, we grew apart. We were literally two strangers living in the same roof. It had happened so subtle. But one thing I learned was someone told me, if you're not, and again, I didn't hear this till after this relationship, but I really took it to heart. Someone told me, if you're not growing together, whether you know it or not, you're growing apart. So it really resonated with me, and I'm so glad that I heard it prior to meeting my husband, because I'm like, I made it a point to tell myself, I do not want this to happen again. I don't want it to be a repetition. So we made our growth intentional. That's the thing, in the difference in this relationship. Yeah.
So like she said, I believe that growth in our marriage, growth in our health, in our physical body, our mental muscle, it has to be intentional. Recovery, it gotta be intentional. We're not gonna accidentally grow. That's never gonna happen. Right. But as far as accountability, things like that in our marriage, growing together. I met my wife. I was about maybe 4 months sober, right around there.
That's early.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's early. But she never experienced the full on, self-seeking, self-centered person, I was actively drinking and using. Like, God spared her from that thing. You know, I'm grateful for that, because one whiff of that, she would have been gone.
Yeah,
you know,
with the quickness.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like my wife ain't no fool.
What is that Beyonce song? No, anyway, I don't know. I thought you were gonna be like, oh, I know that one. I know she made a song about leaving. I don't know.
Yeah, goodbye. I don't know.
Yeah. But you know, growing together, like growing in general, for me as a man, as a person, I started practicing these things before I met my wife, and when I met her, I set the standard in our relationship of you know, what this is what I would like for us. You know, it's not this is it and that's it. No, that's not this macho my way or the highway. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is, look, and by her watching me how I was growing, it inspired her to do the same thing as well. I never once told her, look, come on, let's go to church. Come on, let's read this book together. Come on. She seen what I was doing and she did it on her own. And then we started doing it together. Right. You know, but there was like accountability was something I was used to, especially with my dad, but also in recovery with my sponsor, being accountable to him, and also my close brothers in the program that I would talk to like daily. I would see them all the time. So I knew about that. See, my wife never had that growing up. She never had like a structure. Her dad, you know, passed away at an early age, and she didn't like she didn't like following directions and things like that. And me, newly sober, trying to stop being this huge control freak that I am, I learned to give it to God, and it's amazing. That was the first time I've done that in my entire life, and she ends up being my wife. You know what I mean? Amazing. You know, it's amazing how that happens, bro. But it goes both ways. You know, I'm accountable to her, she's accountable to me. You know, not once. I mean, and the thing I just absolutely love is that she has never, and she will never, ever, ever, until the day I die, be out at night looking for me at the bars, looking for me, where we at with the boys? You guys over here, you guys over there, you with this girl, you at this hotel? She'll never have to experience that ever, bro. So, you know, it takes work though to have a good marriage. It's definitely, we're not perfect, just to make that clear. We're definitely not. We fight, we've yelled at each other, we've thrown things, and we said things we didn't mean. But ultimately, you know, love doesn't keep records of wrongs. That's something that I hang on to, man. And I can easily forgive anybody, but especially my wife, though. I can easily forgive other people because God forgave me for all these terrible things I've done, you know, in my life.
Right. Amen. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Just learning to forgive, and not hold resentments. I know he basically he mentioned he was early in his recovery when we started dating, and he never once tried changing me. He was leading by example, and I liked that. And I saw how quickly he was growing in his program and his thinking and his attitude. Everything was changing, and I wanted that. I wanted that too, so that's why I was open to it. But I think that's really, really important. I think a lot of times, like, we want to change our partners. We want them to be a certain way. But honestly, I think that's kind of counterproductive. Like, we're trying to make something happen that isn't going to happen. If you let it go and give it to God, like, honestly, that's where the magic happens. That's where you start seeing changes. And that's what happened with me. Like, he gave it to God. And for I actually changed. Like, I was open to it, and our relationship has blossomed ever since.
Yeah. Right, and I could see that through your YouTube videos and videos on Instagram. That's why I gravitated to those. And you see me on there in the comments section. I'm always like, man, I'm so grateful for this. And that's why I have you guys on here as well, because I want to spread this message. Like I said, I feel like just for people being informed about, you know, a healthy relationship, like you said, you guys are not perfect, and I'm not claiming that you guys are, but when you guys put your stuff out there and you guys are so vulnerable and you guys are showing how you guys are growing together, it just inspires me for like my next relationship to like follow certain things that you guys did. Now I want to touch a little bit more on this, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that are just like, look, man, we live together, we raise a kid together, sometimes we sleep together. How the hell are we supposed to grow together? We're with each other all the time. What was the number one biggest challenge of that, and what was the solution for it?
Okay, I'll go first for this one. The biggest challenge was like, in regards to me wanting my wife to grow along with me, was control. I wanted to make her do it with me. As I didn't though, but that didn't mean I didn't feel it in me all the time. I did. It would bug me sometimes, but I kept my mouth shut. I kept leading by example. And that was, in my opinion, that is the most effective way to impact anybody else, is go do it first. I mean, don't just, talk about it, be about it, kind of thing. Yeah. So, that was a struggle. So what my solution to that was, honestly, was I go, okay, God, take care of her. Go ahead. You know what I mean? I relinquish control. I mean, for a control freak, that is the hardest thing on the planet to do. I mean, because I always wanted to control other people, places, things. Like, nothing sadder than a narcissist losing control of somebody else's mind. you know what I mean? It was terrible, man. But that was like a big challenge for me, honestly. And giving it to God was my solution, and it worked.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I know you may mention, like, what was the biggest challenge? So, well, because there might be some people out there thinking, like, how do I do that? For starters, I think you touched on this a little bit. You said, like, oh, these are good things for me to learn now, so I know how to apply them in my next relationship. I honestly feel that sometimes. I feel like had I had the knowledge that we have today, that we've learned reading through our book, our Protocol for Marriage book, I probably would have had a different outcome in my first relationship. So for those of you who are not married, like, don't get discouraged. Like, honestly, I feel like seeking this information is super, super important, because why not, like, feed yourself this information so you can have a successful marriage? Don't wait till you meet your partner.
Right.
And when you finally do meet your partner, set the standards. It shouldn't be a drag. Like, how do I do that? Like, you know what I mean? We already got work, this, and kids, and like, set the standards. Make it intentional from the get-go so it becomes easy. Now, for those of you who may be in a relationship and you haven't established that yet, like, think about it this way. Like, do you want to end up divorced, or do you want to end up happily married? Do you want to be like the stigma in society? There's too many divorces out there. Do you want to be another one on the books, or do you want to have a successful relationship? So it shouldn't be a drag. Like, think about it that way. Like, be intentional. Put in the work. If you want this thing to work, put in the work. Remember, your children, be reminded, if you didn't have a successful relationship or an example for maybe of your parents, do you want the same thing for your children? Think about those things. Focus on the things that are going to motivate you to put in the work, to grow with your spouse. So that's basically what I would say.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And honestly, even for those, like, even for myself, because I'm no longer in a relationship with my kid's mother, but I'm in a relationship with her. We have our kids, so we co-parent. And just the fact that I know all this information, it establishes a better relationship with me and her, because I understand her more now. She understands me now. And now, as I'm doing all of this and I'm taking initiative and I'm doing all these things, she's probably wishing, like, why weren't you doing that shit when we were together, But, you live and learn. So, like, if there's anybody out there that's actually co-parenting too, like, you can use these tools and this information as well, like she said, to get started, to get a jump on your next relationship. So I really appreciate you guys sharing that. Now, if you guys can, please talk about your YouTube channel, because I love what you guys are doing. I really do love what you guys are. And I truly believe that if people are aware and informed, this can possibly minimize, addiction and alcoholism. The Protocol for Marriage, the book that you guys read out of, what's the purpose of the channel, the structure of it, and how does it help you with your life now? Right.
Okay. So, a lot of people, I think, this is just my opinion, but a lot of people have bad relationships today simply out of ignorance. They just are uninformed. They just don't know. So when me and my wife first met, I was already going to this church in Rancho Cucamonga, and my wife wanted to go, so we started going together. And one day we were at the bookstore and we seen this book, and it's called The Protocol for Marriage. It's a little book, bro. It's like that thick, it's like that big, but it's so powerful. So since we've been together, every year we read that book, and every year we get something different out of it, because we're at different stages in our growth. So we see different things, things differently and everything. And I was last year, toward the end of last year, I wanted to make videos since I first got the book with her, but she didn't want to, so I said okay. And then she agreed to do it. She said, okay, let's do it, because it's been helping our marriage so much. So we started making videos and posting them on our Instagrams, and then it was her idea to create a YouTube channel.
Nice.
I never thought of it. She did. And then so that's what we did. Because the best way to pay back is to pay it forward. The best way to pay somebody back is to pay it forward. And we have gained so much value and added so much value to ourselves and our relationship in our marriage, specifically because of that one book. we were like, man, other people got to hear about it, you know. So that's when we started to talk. She agreed, okay, let's start making videos. But you know, trust me, like not every time we make them, I mean, it looks so, but man, we could have been arguing right before. We could have been tired and like, but we committed to doing it, and we just did it anyway, you know. But some days it's a struggle, you know, honestly. Some days it's one take and bam, that's it.
Right.
And I'm glad we did, because I do feel like some of the purpose of it is that we want others to basically gain. We're hopeful that other people can gain when we gain, or some sort of positive nuggets out of it, that it can inspire them and help grow in their relationship as well.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it is. I mean, it's helped me. And it was funny how like she didn't want to do the videos at first. Yeah. And I bet you inside of your mind, Alika, you were just like, man, just come on, just do it already.
Yeah.
But I got this sense that you guys are growing from it as well, because you're getting comfortable on camera. You guys are growing together. And I know for me, being on camera was something that I was just like, fuck that. But I committed to myself. And now I'm like, what's grounded, fam?
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I'm saying? So, commitment, and what about accountability? I know you guys hold yourselves, and you guys are accountable with one another. How does that help outside of like the YouTube channel and outside of like creating videos?
Man, commitment, that's a big one. Like my husband said, for him it came a little bit easier because he had his dad who was a good role model. For me it was harder. Like commitment wasn't something I was used to. I felt more comfortable doing what I wanted to do, and if I didn't feel comfortable, I would just like not follow through with it. But I'm glad that we have this is teaching me how to like just, you know, follow through with something, and it's pushing me out of my comfort zone. And I'm so glad my husband pushed me, because what he's really doing is helping me grow. So again, for those of you who may think, oh, we're not there yet, or whatever the case may be, neither was I. This is helping just keep us accountable to one another, grow at the same time while we're putting the content out there. So it's definitely beneficial.
How do you think it's helped as far as accountability goes between me and you?
Well, one thing that my husband said in the beginning, because I know a lot of times, hopefully this can help other people, but like as a couple, like we can fight and bicker about like small little things. Like it's so crazy, but like sometimes now I think back, I'm like, some of these things make no sense. It's not even worth putting so much energy. But something my husband once told me in the beginning of our relationship, we argued, he's like, hey, like, he's like, why are you coming at me like that? Like, I'm on your team. We're wearing the same jersey. And I was like, snaps. I was like, whoa, that is good. Like, that is so true. Like, so, like, sometimes I realize that we as couples can argue about the smallest little things, but we got to remember we're a team. So it's teaching us to just, you know, be part of the same team, and that's how we keep each other accountable.
Yeah, and you know what we got to get back to doing. We stopped doing this for a while, but what we started to do, we made a commitment, we just talked about it. We said, look, anytime we start bickering or arguing, this would end everything. All we would say is, hey, I'm your best friend. And that sells everything.
You guys have a safe word?
Yeah.
That was our safe sentence, basically. Like, you know, hey, you know, you're my best friend. You know, and that would just everything is gone. All the emotions would just go. Whoop.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's really good advice.
Yeah. But like, I think because we grow so much, like we haven't used it a whole lot because we didn't need to, honestly, you know. Yeah.
But in the beginning, trust me, if you don't have one, get one. It will save you a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
Great stuff, guys. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna, before you guys go, I gotta ask the signature question. I'm gonna switch it up on you guys. What would you guys like your son to remember you guys by the most?
All right. For me, one thing I have to say, like, our relationship isn't perfect, but we're definitely growing and we're striving to try to achieve a good relationship. But something that has definitely helped our relationship a lot was just being like equally yoked, just having a strong foundation, and just being believers and believing that, you know, God is like holds us together and being our glue. So that has honestly, I truly believe in my heart. I know that for a fact because it's been proven time and time again. Like if I put God first, everything follows. My marriage has gotten much better. My, you know, children, my business, whatever, you know, I try to pursue. So that's what I want for my son. I want my son to remember his mom for being a woman of faith. Yes.
Because I am my example for my son as far as what a man should look like, and he will look for a woman like the example his mother sets. I know for sure my son will know me and remember me as a godly man, like a man after God's own heart. Like that's, you know, I mean, it has so much other facets into saying what I just said, but you know, things like character. See, I mean, you mean charisma, you know, the charm. Those are all good things. See, something I learned about that. See, the charisma, it can get you through the door, but your character will keep you there. Ooh. You know what I mean? And that's something that I lacked majorly. See, but I don't lack in that area anymore. And honestly, my wife said it is because I put God first, and everything has improved. My physical health, I mean, my recovery, my marriage, my finances, every single thing. But see, when it's out of order, then you know, then that's when things start getting all, you know, crazy in life in general, and it's not, you know, going like how it used to go, basically. But that's something my son will remember of me, and you know, leaving a legacy for him to. Definitely. Like my son can continue to carry this message of recovery for me, even long after I'm gone. You know, with Pro Recovery Power, he can continue on, and his kids can do it. You know, if they choose to. Not gonna make them do it, but it'll be nice. I like to think they would do it.
Well, you're leading by example, so I'm pretty sure he will, and probably my kids will join yours right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys' time. If you guys want to follow, I really do recommend you guys follow their YouTube channel and also on Instagram. I'm going to leave the link in the descriptions. So make sure you guys follow them. Thank you. I'll never be the same.